Should we move into a new theme? I think you had one going there.
Yes, so I think this is actually a very interesting topic for me as well, and we speak a lot about this in Peltoran as well, and speaking about diversity and biases that do exist in data, and if we start to become more data-driven, it's easy to just increase and even reinforce sometimes the biases that we have historically. So perhaps you can, I know you're engaged in a number of initiatives here. Perhaps you can just start by giving some background for, what type of initiatives you are working with. In this kind of settings.
Yeah, mainly I got in touch with the Female Engineer Network here in Sweden and the Ingenjörsjobb, where I now sit in the board as well, and started to talk about kind of the inclusion and what is actually kind of a equality. And I am a strong believer that equality is on an individual basis, because you can always set up different kind of groupings and compare.
You mean it's a subjective way, or what do you mean?
Yeah, but it kind of that we are all kind of individuals. We have our own different kinds of dimensions, and usually equality is very much kind of discussed among like men and women, which is, of course, it does exist inequality there between those groupings. But so there is kind of a lot of inequality in between different dimensions. So we can pick out whatever dimension and start comparing, but I think we have to start appreciating the individuals. And my biggest concern is the kind of maybe lack of female, and that we have like that are the people who are now building kind of in this technological revolution or whatever we're in the midst of, so that we have the kind of a possibility to build a totally new kind of society with new structures and rules, because we are very much kind of we want to do stuff in a different way, but like in any company who is doing the transformation, so we are also kind of prohibited by the old structures that has been built. And even though you would like to do it in a different way, so the structures are still there. And as you say and mentioned, so it's so easy now to kind of build based on the old structures, because it's a hard job to change that. And when we have like a kind of technology community, that there is a majority of men and maybe in some companies even kind of very in the same age groups and from the same background and so on. So it's impossible to build solutions that take in consideration how the actual society looks like and taking in the different points of view. And that, I think, is really concerning. For example, there was like at Google, there was like 10% of AI specialists are women. And how do you then build like AI solutions that reflect
society?
And that's just one kind of, again, one point of view to the equality question.
Let me take the other side of the discussion a bit, just to have both sides of the coin, because it's easy to also jump into the ethical bandwagon, if you say so, and just say it's so dangerous with being data driven, but you could also think it's dangerous to be human driven. In the sense it's kind of hard to know. Let's take a concrete example. Let's take recruitment or something.
Yes.
And we know the kind of horrible example from Amazon and their type of way to automate that. But still, if we have humans that drives recruitment, for example, how do we know or avoid like biases in that case? Yeah. Isn't it even harder to detect that potentially if it's human-driven compared to data-driven, or what's your thinking there?
Yeah, but I think also in the recruitment processes, so you should also kind of in the recruitment process you should have like a kind of reflection of different backgrounds and ages and so on, participating in the recruitment of a person, so that that candidate is also looked from.
But it's hard to have
angles.
Like super junior people like involved perhaps in recruitment process.
Yeah, maybe. And then what we actually also do, so we have these trainings of getting rid of biases or identifying your own biases. And then of course you can wash the CVs, for example, so that you don't have gender, you don't have pictures, you don't have names and so on, just to get a kind of unopinionated view on things. And then, of course, for us, for example, so we are very much kind of striving for kind of having this kind of structure in our company. We're absolutely not there yet, but this is like our ambition, and it's more like, okay, we want to have more of kind of different kinds of backgrounds and so on, and it's really driving force in the recruitment as well. And we can't stop the recruitment process before our kind of the funnel looks like the society looks like. So we can't just kind of, okay, we got 100.
Distribution basically that
yeah, a little bit kind of. Yes. So it kind of reflects because then you have to work harder. And we're working also with the kind of the identifying the personas and where different kinds of people are, where they, when do they surf and look at the kind of job ads and this and that. So we're trying to really kind of pinpoint different kinds of personas and how to reach out to them, because the communication has to be also kind of a little bit different.
So bringing on the point that Henrik mentioned, and perhaps what Robert previously said as well, do you think tech can be a tool to guide diversity or to
Yeah, it can be both.
It.
It can be both, because of course, like people who build in algorithms and so on. So we're people, and then it's of course of the data sets and how we kind of train the algorithms to how it's like our children. So they become what we we teach them.
It's a new children.
The algorithm is the new children.
Yeah,
in
it
this
is.
way.
Yeah.
And they are flawed, like the creators are flawed.
Yeah, but I think it's again like the combination that we truly believe in also is like the combination of human insight and tech. Yes. So you have to have that, because what is the strength of a human is empathy, and the kind of the caring. Then you can have algorithms, they might not have the empathy, not yet at least. I haven't seen.
And I think this resonates also with a theme that, even back to talking to Louise Kallenberg at SKR, that this whole idea that these pitting humans against AI, or the future is clearly a cyborg, I almost said, but the ultimate value will come from them interacting together and playing to their strength.
Exactly. I'm so happy that you say that. And now I just kind of remember a couple of years ago, I was at one conference and there was a lot of this topic, are the machines against people or human, and what, so tired. And I was totally bored in that conference, and I wrote to my mentor that this is total bullshit. That is, why can't we just see this as a possibility to enhance like our capability of making good choices? And because somewhere in my cyborg thing.
Yeah, but to me it's a little bit like the conversation came in one way, and then it was even the ethical discussion become hyped.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I think this is a little bit. It's like you can almost find the year. Where's the hyped word? We have this joke, right? Now we talk about, I don't know, we digitalization, digital transformation, and then it was big data, and then so ethical AI was even a hype word to me in 2019, and I'm not meaning it as that it's not important. But the conversation almost went to the point where people wanted to pit this conversation one against another. And I rhetorically understand it in terms of highlighting the dangers and understanding the bias. So essentially it's good, right? But it's not so useful as what you can do with it if you start trying to understand, okay, we think this should work together. Number one principle. We think we should play to our strength and their strengths. Yeah. And then what is their strengths? What is our strengths? What are their weaknesses? And now I think the whole ethical debate comes to a much more sophisticated level if you lift it a little bit and not the polarization type discussion. I think is not helping.
No, usually it isn't.
Usually it isn't.
With whatever topic, actually. So,
if we try to make the discussion a bit more concrete as well, and say, let's keep to the recruitment topic, and say that, okay, we can think about different ways to think. In 5 years, I want recruitment to work like this. And you can say, okay, I want recruitment to be completely data only, so to speak. Where I can say, I want the recruitment to be completely human only. Or you want it to be cyborg only, or however you should phrase it. Perhaps I'm thinking more, one of the terms used, at least in the EU context, is human-centric AI, saying basically it's still the human in control but you basically use data and AI as a tool to augment what the humans can do. Is this, sorry for a leading question here, but is this a good way to phrase it, you think? In 5 years, I'd like to have like a human in control, but with AI and data as a augmentation. That's the preferred like recruitment process in the future.
I would like to see it more as a seamless cooperation than somebody in total control all the time, because we are not the best controllers.
Humans, you
know.
mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's actually try to be concrete and see if we can do a vision around this. I mean, like let's make this as a use case. We have AI centric 5 years ahead, and then if you break down the user journey of a recruiter, right, and you understand the data points and you understand the different tasks, there's so much. I mean, like and then not being picky if it's machine learning or deep learning or simply data, right? If you look at that, there is a huge task of search, right? So how can we do world-class search in one way, right? And then you have sort, right? And then you have prioritizing, and then so you get to a point where you can basically do a lot of things, which is, in my opinion, automation and mechanical, and where if you do. You talk to a machine that spits out the perfect list of candidates across the globe. Theoretically, to build that it's not that hard, even if you want to build it, right? And then so I'm used elaborating on that story. And then of course, if you rethink recruitment from scratch, right? But then you get to a lot of other topics, right? Depending on what you're recruiting, in that this is leadership, this is headhunting, this is sort of, I'm not going to have an AI calling up and do a.
Yes, I want to. Actually.
You want an AI to call Wallenberg? Hey, I have a new job for you. Chatbot.
You know how much time I spend on the phone with recruitment?
I love when I have a chatbot recruit.
I'm kidding a bit, but still.
But maybe you could have this pre-screening call. Hey, we have a job for you. Click 1 if you want to hear more.
No, but have you heard GPT-3 speaking? Okay, not going
no,
there.
but I think this is interesting, because if you then take the human-centric approach, and then, okay, this is actually a cyborg happening in my head right now. It's quite interesting that, of course, that the computer part of the cyborg kicks in and searches the internet. The computer part kicks in and sort it and structure it. And on some sorting categories that I have defined, which is quite sophisticated now, might be decision model, right? And that, of course, we can do a lot, and then have a look at that. And you see it. It's not that.
So how does recruitment work at Solita? Can you...
Recruitment at Solita is, we have like our in-house recruiters that are kind of headhunters, like the ninja.
Yeah, the ninja.
What does a ninja mean in recruitment terms?
I don't know. I don't actually know, but at that point we didn't actually have any titles in that sense, so everybody picked one that sounded good. So yeah, but But we have like people who are kind of running the recruitment process. But then our organization, our consultants and people leads, and depending on the role, are participating in the interview process. And we always start with the cultural match, the values, the value base, how we are.
Start, you mean like the first topic of discussion? Or?
First topic of discussion.
First filter.
Yeah, first filter, if you fit into this kind of, the kind of values, what way do you work and what kind of things do you appreciate, and how kind of, but all that kind of stuff that kind of builds up the kind of the relationship and understanding from human to human. Then the second part is more kind of going through what the kind of work life is and what the kind of the role that was discussed and so on, if that was the right role, but if we feel that it could be something else and so on. So then it's from colleague to colleague. Then there is kind of a tech stuff going further and kind of usually utilizing also scenario methods. So you sit with the whiteboard through Teams at this time, kind of asking, how would you kind of a blank canvas. Would you do this and that? And we take in quite a little people because from all the applications, because our kind of quality has to be quite high. And then all this, we don't ever sacrifice our cultural values for tech skills. Or vice versa. So it has to be a good combination. And the most of the tech also, that there is a potential and there is passion, there is courage, and then there is kind of the person who is a kind of a laid back, a nice person who still kind of has the kind of wish to work in a kind of network and a community like ours. And then you have to have these kind of different steps there is only kind of like 3 steps in our recruitment process, because it has to be also fast.
Yeah.
So
That's impressive.
Yeah, so you don't have to kind of keep it kind of people hanging for too long and waiting for a decision.
But I guess still you do have to spend quite some time with recruitment, as a lot of companies. It is painful and very expensive. And it takes time to, the question about false positives or false negatives, If you hire a person that is a false positive, someone that actually didn't turn out well, that can be extremely costly.
Exactly, and that's where you have to screen quite thoroughly, like in the process. And we want to also make sure that this person actually belongs to Solita, because it's a horrible situation for both parties because our people are what we are. And we really want kind of everybody who comes in to enjoy and be at home. So it's really important to take these steps still. But I think absolutely, like automating stuff, we have also kind of built-in systems and stuff like that. So that helps us in like sorting and so on. But the most important thing, I think, is also to communicate correctly, to get your kind of the soul out of the company, so that people who actually feel that this could be something for me, so that it's not kind of generic job postings that we need a data engineer and you must have this ding 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 ding, but that you kind of
Python and Java.
Yeah. But you describe a little bit more of what we're looking for and who are we. So I think that's really
soft
interesting.
skills versus hard skills, is that way? Way to describe
maybe
it,
the company culture and describing the kind of soul and
because
so
what you're highlighting now is also the fit.
Yes.
So a recruitment process is not only about they are fitting us, but it's being very, very clear in what we are. So does this fit you and your personal agenda?
Exactly, because this is a relationship that is supposed to last for a long time. It's a big investment that we do, and it's also something that we will kind of rely. Are participating in our kind of business development and competency development, everything in contributing that we grow in a sustainable way and our customers are happy and so on. So it's the most critical part of the business, and therefore.
But if you were to just make a wish, say, I wish I didn't have to spend time with this kind of boring going through CVs or whatnot kind of process or step in the process. Is there some part that you wish this is something that we could make much more efficient and accurate in the recruitment process?
Yeah, I think somehow, but it's a very long. There are so many things that we should change in the whole kind of job seeking, how we do it. so it starts from the very grounds of how we have kind of how companies have kind of set up these processes and how we seek job and so on and apply for a job. So it's but I would like to see more kind of automation in that sense. But I would also like to see empathy being put into the results. So if the machine kind of sorts out the kind of the first part of the CVs and puts them into the good bucket and then the less interesting buckets or whatever, so that there still would be somebody just checking out that was this really kind of if we can find the golden nuggets from the less desirable, but maybe potential basket. So that would, of course, make it a lot easier. Yeah. But I think it's really hard. We have been trying with dating apps, right? And all kinds of stuff to try to find like relationships. And
Tinder for recruitment.
Tinder for recruitment. I love it.
Yeah, we were talking about Tinder for projects and all kinds of stuff so that our consultants can kind of love a project where they want to work and so on. So
that's cool. That's new thinking.
Yeah, but it's a relationship that you build, and I think it's very hard to automate also relationship building. So you can have like the first impulses and so on, but the digital journey, of course, it's interesting in its kind of entirety. Some kind of I think that we can be better in kind of handling the funnel with automation and so on, and getting that kind of we have these reminders also